So Michael, nice to meet you.
Hi, Michael.
How did we meet? Yeah, let's talk about how we met and how long ago we met. How about that? Start there.
So we met at the top of a mountain.
I don't know the name of it.
I don't remember the name of it either, but you were there with your white stallion, and Crystal Lake. That's what it was. And I looked at it. I'm like, that's an interesting bike that I haven't seen before, and came up and asked you about it. And then, and now we're here at another trip.
And what? 2 weeks later?
2 weeks later,
Yeah.
exactly 2 weeks
I
actually.
want to thank you for that invite. It's not very often you meet people that are just willing to bring you along. Invite strangers out to a cabin in the middle of the woods. I can't. I was a little nervous, but I'm glad I came.
I'm all about breaking those what is it called?
Social norms.
Social norms, you could say. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so could I ask you first? I want to know how long have you been riding motorcycles?
So, how long has my butt been on the seat of a motorcycle? I would say, realistically, maybe 2 years.
2 years, okay.
So, fairly new rider.
Mm-hmm. How did you learn to ride? What did that entail?
Well, yeah, I've always been on two wheels ever since I was little. I was get on a bicycle on my BMX. As soon as I got on that, I was off on my own in the woods, terrorizing the neighborhood and everything like that. So, and then after that, it became my main means of transportation going back and forth to high school. I got a 10-speed, would take long trips there.
Mm-hmm.
So two wheels have kind of been a part of my growing up. And only when I was older did I get a bike as a means of transportation. Mm-hmm. At the time, I didn't have a lot of money, and I needed cheap transportation. And an 87 Honda Rebel 450 CMX
Okay. Mm-hmm.
was my first bike, and but I didn't last too long on that bike.
So you're saying that you basically learned to ride a motorcycle by riding bicycles?
Yeah, well, two wheels have been on there, but teaching myself riding a motorcycle, I knew how the machine works and working the clutch.
That definitely makes sense to me. I mean, it's a good start. If you know how to, if a person doesn't know how to ride a bicycle and they get on a motorcycle, I believe they
very intimidating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely because other than the things that you know how to ride a bike, here you just figure out the clutch and the gears and everything, and other than that, it's pretty much.
Yeah, so I did that, and I rode that bike for I would say 6 to 8 months, and then I had an accident. Didn't ride for quite some time, and
That's
then
the one you were telling us about, that you flew Superman over a car.
Yeah, so I don't know if you want to go into that.
That's
okay.
So I would like to hear about that also.
Okay.
Again, so
Yeah, so I'll set the scene for you. It was after work. I was riding my little Rebel home from work, and I'm heading eastbound, and the sun is setting behind me. So the sun is in the driver's eyes that are coming towards me, heading westbound. I was approaching a traffic light, doing the speed limit. That bike doesn't go that fast, and I wasn't speeding. I was doing about 35 miles an hour. And there was a car in the middle of the intersection. And the driver, I was looking at their eyes, and I noticed that they weren't looking at the road. They were looking at the light, waiting for it to turn yellow so that they could just cut across and make their left-hand turn. Mm-hmm. And I knew that was coming, so I anticipated that. And going straight, I wound up avoiding that person because I knew they were turning. And then immediately behind that person, there was another person right on that person's tail making a left-hand turn as well. Luckily, they turned enough to where I hit them head on, but I just missed the windshield and flew over the quarter panel. Mm-hmm. And it's what seemed to me like 30 feet of just Supermaning through the air, landing, doing 2 somersaults, and then landing on my feet in like a crouched position. I was like, all right, I'm alive. And then as soon as I started to stand up, I realized that I broke my collarbone just because of when I landed. I landed on the back side of my helmet, and it pushed it into my collarbone. That was the only injury I sustained, and a little bit of road rash on the backside there. Immediately got over, walked over to the side, and said, grabbed my phone, called my girlfriend up, told her I got into an accident. And
were you wearing any leathers or anything?
No,
just
t-shirt,
jeans and
and t-shirt and a helmet.
I can't believe that you just broke. I mean,
I know.
that's lucky. Yeah.
That's the other thing is like because of that, I'm very proud of myself that I got back on that horse and
Yeah.
wasn't afraid to do it. Motorcycle means that much to me to to go beyond that,
Hmm.
to get over that fear and conquer it.
Yeah. It's true. A lot of people after they get in accidents like that, it's a psychological block. They don't want to see motorcycles. And
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I don't think that I blocked it out altogether, but when I do approach an intersection, I approach it with that much more
yeah.
respect, especially on a motorcycle. And people say, "Oh, I didn't see him," and that actually happened to me one time where I was in my truck and a motorcyclist was coming from my
Same
left, and like visually, I did not see him.
thing. Hmm.
And I rode back up to him. Like, we kind of had a close call. He kind of did his thing, like "Hey" or whatever. And I drove up next to him. And I told him, "Hey, I ride bikes too. I'm sorry. I really didn't see you. Our mind is set to see this big rectangular block, not the silhouette of a motorcycle usually. So you visually or mentally kind of block it out sometimes. So I understand that that's a real thing that happens. So
Hmm. Yeah. So, if we go back to how did you learn to ride? Did you take any training courses, or anything like that? Or
yes. So after that accident, when I realized I wanted to get back on a bike, I started watching some YouTube videos on a guy who had a Honda CB500X. Blanco Laurelio is the name of the channel, and he really got me inspired to get on a lightweight, small adventure bike.
hmm
And so when I got on that bug, I took the MSR course,
hmm
and they teach you the basics. It's a good course. I highly recommend it. Um, didn't teach me really anything I didn't already know, but gives you a little bit more of a confidence builder, especially like if you're new to riding bikes. I highly recommend it if you're not that familiar with how the mechanics of working the clutch and the pedals and things like that. They kind of break that into you slowly on a small, easy to use bike.
hmm
Actually, a friend of mine, I wound up talking her into it, and she's only 4'11", and she got on one of those smaller bikes and kind of took the course, and I was kind of proud of her for doing
Yeah.
that.
Very good. And that's like a internet course, internet
No,
based,
it's
or
an
what's?
actual course that you go to. They
Okay.
provide motorcycles to you. They just require that you wear ankle-high boots, jeans, and a long-sleeve shirt. They provide helmets, and you got to bring gloves.
Hmm.
And
Nice.
and they provide bikes to you in the training. And it's 4 hours in a classroom, and then 4 hours of actual riding,
Mm.
and then another 4 hours in a classroom, and then another 4 hours of riding.
Hmm. Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
And I guess I also want to know why you choose this particular style of bike to ride. At this point of time,
Mhm.
and why a Kawasaki also.
Well, to tell you the truth, the Kawasaki wasn't my first choice. There's
Okay.
a whole story behind that. But the thing for me is a lightweight, nimble adventure bike because I want to get outdoors. For me, being on a bike is more of a mental thing. I can put away my job, I can put away my frustrations and everything else and be in the moment and focus on riding. And all it is paying attention and being present. And that, riding over and over again kind of gets you more adept to doing that. It's kind of like meditation in a way. I don't listen to music when I ride. I pay attention to what's going on around me. I like to listen to things going on around me. Again, going back to the bike and the style, I knew working, I don't work too far from home, and the money it costs to pay for this, the insurance and the gas, is cheaper than just putting gas in my truck
Okay.
on a monthly basis. So, that right there in
Right
itself
there
is
is
kind
good.
of like the reason why I wanted to go on a
Smaller bike.
smaller bike. The other reason is, a small bike. I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'8". My inseam isn't that tall. I think I'm like 32, 33-inch inseam. So working with a smaller bike is a lot easier to deal with. My first choice was the CB500X. It's got a little bit more power. This one they had at the time with everything going on right now, so I kind of made this one as a choice.
Just basically, so you would have chose the Honda if they had it.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because riding on the highways and things like that,
Mhm.
the having that little extra CCs, you're not getting, you're not whining it out as much. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit smoother of a ride. I think Honda, every time he says, I've got a Honda, everybody's like, oh, okay, they're reliable bikes. They're known for their reliability.
That's true.
This is my first Kawasaki that I've ever owned, so I'm just getting familiar with it. I will probably trade this in and get a Honda once one
Once
becomes
they're
available.
available.
Yeah. So, but this one I like it because there's a lot of features on it that don't come on the Honda. Spoke rims. It's more geared towards an off-road style of riding, where the CB in the Honda is city bike. So it's more city with off-road hints.
If you really want to, you could.
But you got to put a little bit more money into it to make it that off-road thing. There's a company called Rally Raid that really can kit out a Honda CB 500X and other various bikes there. They have engine guards and things like that really, and front shock inserts and things like that really can change the look and feel and style of that bike to something a lot more off-road aggressive. But yeah, this bike here, it's a nice bike. I've been happy with it so far. The only thing I feel it just is it needs a little bit more oomph on the highways. Not winding out on the higher RPMs. I would probably change out the sprocket on the front because first gear is basically useless. I mean, you get up to maybe 10 miles an hour before you got to shift gears. That's the one thing I do find also on this bike is that you got to shift gears a lot. So if you like shifting gears and you like those high RPMs, this is the bike for you. So, yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. Oh, I mean, I just put it around here and I rode up this little hill. I really like this bike.
It's become popular.
Really nimble.
Yeah, I've seen I've been watching on
YouTube.
YouTube.
It's like a bicycle, basically.
Exactly, and that was the whole point of a small bike like that. Is I want it to be nimble and light. If I do dump it enough for by myself for any reason, I won't be struggling with picking it back up and getting it back on the trail.
Okay, so I wanted to ask one more question. What is a motorcycle to you? Like I've gotten so many different answers on this question. Some people use a motorcycle to get an adrenaline rush. Some people use it as a social status, to get women. Some people use it as a teacher. I want to hear what do you use a motorcycle for?
Yeah, and that comes back to more of my personality. Like I've never been somebody to follow fads or care about what somebody else thinks of what I look or what I wear, what brands I go with, and things like that. So to me, it's not a fashion statement. It's not a social thing that I need to, like a social status thing about what kind of bike I have. Do you ride a Ducati or anything like that? No, I ride the bike that fits the riding style that I do, realistically. And what motorcycling is for me is, I touched on it earlier, it's that I get to meditate. I get to put all those things aside that are in my mind throughout the course of the day. I can filter all that stuff out and let my mind relax and just be present in the moment. So in a way, it's my escape. It's my meditation. It's my church. It's, that thing that gets me away from the everyday monotony, and it's my sense of adventure. It's my curiosity.
You touched on that. I think that's a very good thing that a lot of motorcyclists should consider, because a lot of the wrecks crashes that happen, a motorcyclist will go to ride his motorcycle, but he's thinking about a fight that he just had, or riding your motorcycle, and you're basically not present on the motorcycle. You're flying somewhere else. You're thinking about the fight you just had with your wife, or the fight you just had at work, or financial stress, whatever it is. And that's when a lot of crashes happen, because you're not present. You're not present right now, and you don't comprehend what's about to happen. And it's good that you touched on that. That's definitely something to consider.
And it doesn't take much. It's just that one split second that you're not paying attention, that your mind wanders off to somewhere else, that's when the person pulls out from the left or pulls out from the right, that you don't see.
I mean, it's literally like you could look down at your speedometer and, it seems like it's quick, but when you're on a motorcycle going 80 miles an hour, there's so much that could happen in that second. So it's definitely, you gotta even pick those times that you can look down you know, when there's no turns or it's kind of somewhat straight, there's not a freaking llama that's gonna step out on the road. You know,
Exactly.
there's
Yeah, and like our ride up here, like I said, like I don't ride any faster than what I can see. So if we've got a curve coming up and I can't see more than 30 feet
Yeah.
around it, I'm going to slow down to 10, 20 miles an hour until I'm sure that there's not some lady on the side of the road with her kid in a car that's broken down that I'm going to run into. Like, I don't want to have to swerve to somebody into an oncoming lane and have somebody be there as well. That's kind of another fear of mine, is dealing with that, like going around a curve, having to correct, and having to go into an oncoming lane where somebody's coming my direction.
like today we were riding. This was on a straightaway. There was a huge rock right in the middle of the road, and if something like that is inside of a curve like that, like you're saying, you know, you're turning, you can't see, and there's a huge rock. You might hit it if if you're going a little too fast. So it's definitely, you know, so even little things like that, you know, a rock in the road, or yeah, that's
Yeah, I like to enjoy the ride. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not in a rush. I don't need to speed and get there. I mean, there's a time and a place for everything. If you want to ride that fast and do it somewhere where it's allowed. Do it somewhere where you're not putting somebody else at risk. That's my biggest thing that kind of irks me about people that ride motorcycles and sport bikes on roads. These are public roads.
Yeah.
If they were to close off like those roads in Malibu that they like to run on, close them off once a month. Let the bikers have their day. That's fine. But if you're going to have somebody else with their family in the car and you're putting them at risk, to me, like, I don't know, for me personally, that would weigh very heavy on my heart if I were the cause of some kind of accident where somebody got really hurt. You know, not just myself, but somebody else. You know, I always put other people first before myself.
that's a very honorable thing to do, and that's kind of why I want to do more of these interviews and see what a motorcycle is for different people, because I think the more like, you know, when a new person starts riding a motorcycle, they kind of need a role model. You know, they're always looking for some, like, you know, if you don't know anything about motorcycles, you just go on YouTube, start learning, and you see all these guys just
I want a GSXR 600.
yeah, just going real fast, you know, and if they don't have an option, an alternative interview maybe like this that they could watch to see that there is other ways that you could use a motorcycle, not
Exactly.
just freaking hauling it. So that's why I think that's kind of what I'm trying to do here, is to give different options, different opinions of what people use motorcycles for. And you know, it's not just for speed, it's not just for adrenaline. It could be, like you said, to kind of relax your mind, to focus on one thing, riding,
Be
and
present.
yeah, be present. Yeah, that's I really appreciate the interview. Thank you very much.
Thank you, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.